the level. See me eye to eye. Stand up like a man. Even from the other side. On the level.
What's up, friends? How's it going? Welcome to the show. Let's go ahead and get into it. As you can see, I got a new host this week. It's Mr. Jonathan Winbush.
What up? Taking over the show.
Yeah, we are.
Winbush time.
Let's go ahead and get started. What's up, and welcome to another MoGraph MoCast. I'm Matt. Joining me this week is the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Jonathan Winbush.
We already said the what up, but
we did.
How's everybody doing out there? Everybody's good, yeah? This Tuesday morning?
Yeah. Can everyone hear us okay? It seems like the audio's going all right over there. So, let's see. Where's my button? Yeah! First off, I wanted to thank our universal sponsor, Otoy. They're the makers of Octane Render and the Render Network. They're a universal sponsor. They've been helping us keep this podcast going and helping us with all of the updates to the website and stuff. A ton of really great stuff coming through. We're super excited, and we want to thank them so much. With Octane, you can create super photorealistic renders incredibly fast, and for those renders that need an extra push of power, the Render Network has you covered. Render Network allows you to render your Octane and Redshift frames in a fraction of the time and a fraction of the cost of other cloud rendering services. The Render Network's also offering render grants. Are you needing some extra cloud rendering for a personal project you're working on? Apply for a Render Network grant. They're giving away over $50,000 in render credits every month. You can check that out at renderfoundation.com/grants, and make sure to go to otoy.com and thank them for helping make our show and the website possible. So yeah, big shout out to Otoy and everything that they do for us. We are incredibly thankful to them. Super excited to have Winbush here. And you guys may have noticed, that there's a bit of a change in the kind of like layout of the show and stuff like that. We're kind of moving some stuff around and changing some things, and I'm gonna be taking over as host of the podcast. Dave is focusing more on some of the Camp MoGraph stuff and some of the event stuff, which is great, so it'll give him a chance. It won't basically overwhelm both of us with both things to do. It'll just overwhelm one of us with one thing and one of us for another thing. So I think it's a good change because it'll help us really focus on the stuff that's really important for us and not, take over all of our time. So,
Change is good, right? How long you guys been doing this for? Like 13, 14 years?
We've been doing the whole website, and everything for about that long. We've been doing the podcast for about 10. So it's it's pretty hardcore, and it's funny. I was thinking about it earlier. I was like, so if I wanted to go back and look at our first video podcast that we did and see how much gray there has been in my beard since then, I went from zero gray to just full on kids stress, whatever motion design. I'm only 40 years old and I look 80 gray in my beard.
I've been like that since my 20s. I swear to God. As soon as I had my son, I think the grays just start showing up. That's why I always keep shaved, because that's where the grays start showing up first, was right in the beard. So I'm like, all right, there's no beard then. Yeah,
and I've looked at, I know my camera's flipped because it would be weird if I was looking this way. And anyway, the gray, I swear, and it only happened once I had kids too. I completely. I think the kids just like this.
They suck the life out of
They
you.
do.
They're like little witches. They just they take your youth away. Because I mean, I had my son at what 19 years old, and I just felt like my life was completely draining out ever since that moment. Just like a 40-year-old in a 20-year-old body. It's just nuts.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I love my kids, but yeah, they are very stressful. Yeah. How old are your kids now, Winbush?
My son will be 23 in a couple of days, and my daughter's
Nice.
15.
That's awesome. Almost got them both out of the house, right? Almost.
Man, I can't get my son to leave. I'm like, what are you doing? I was like, at 18, I couldn't wait to get out of the house.
Yeah, that was me too. I moved out when I was 17. You know?
Yeah.
And it's like like literally the day I graduated, I was moving into an apartment with my friends. But like I was talking to my wife about this the other day, and I was like, welcome to the non-mography part of the show. Anyway, I was talking to my wife about it the other day, and I said, you know, like everything has changed so much, like with the economy and the way the world works and stuff like that. It's like, and everything is so expensive. Like,
Yeah.
I couldn't get an apartment that would house my 4 family members for less than what I pay in my mortgage right now, you know? And it's like, I don't know how my kids are ever going to move out, you know? So
That's
it's
the
like,
thing. It's like my son tells me, he's just like, where am I going to move to? And I'm like, I guess you have a point, because it's kind of like you kind of need 8 roommates just to live in a studio apartment, especially out here
especially
in
in
LA.
LA,
It's just
yeah.
like, yeah, it's crazy. So yeah.
Yeah, and so like I told my wife, I said, you know what? I've just accepted the fact that our kids will live with us forever, and that's okay. Because I feel like once my kid gets a little bit older and a little bit more adult, there will be less arguing and headbutting. And when he's out of school and we're not having to worry about grades, it's like, okay, you can go be your own man, go stay up in your room, go do whatever you want, you know. But you're welcome to live here for the rest of your life.
Yeah, I mean, it's going back to the old school, right? I know with like my parents, they said they stay with their parents until, you know, they're ready to move out, like, you know, just save up and get through school and stuff like that. So
yeah. And I think
maybe it's
that's
going back to
also
that.
like a European way of doing it as well, I believe. You know, kids live with their parents up till their 30s or something when they're finally able to move out and they're financially, you know, able to, you know?
Yeah.
So
I think that's the rest of the world. I mean, my best friend growing up was Persian, and that's the way he said their family was. Like, he went through law school, and he lived with his parents all the way through law school and saved up the entire time. And like, he was probably 29, I think, when he graduated. And at that point, he was ready to buy a house because he didn't have to pay rent. So he just saved that entire time. And he said that's just the way they did it in the Persian households. Like, you
yeah, that's a
go to
smart way to
school and
do it.
save.
Especially,
Yeah.
saving for a house while you're going through college and everything. You know, I told my wife, I said, you know, I don't care if I have to put myself into horrible debt to get my kids through college. You know,
Yeah.
I'm not going to put that burden on them for the rest of their lives, you know, because I'm in my
It sucks, yeah.
40s and I'm still paying student loans, you know.
I'm still there too.
Yep.
I was waiting for that Biden call. Like,
I
all my
was
friends
too,
I went
yep.
to school with, they all got forgiven, and I'm sitting here just like, what the hell's going on?
Yep.
I still never got that call.
We got real lucky that my wife, because my wife's a teacher, you know, she was able to get the public service student loans or something, and she just got half of them forgiven. So in another
really?
15 months, hopefully, unless the Department of Education gets like completely shut down and everything, it's unprecedented times. We'll see
Yeah,
what
I
happens
mean,
there.
What I have, because I went to the Art Institute, and they actually got sued by the government
Yeah.
for, you know, the false practices. So
Yeah.
I gotta just like, I thought that I didn't have to, but I might just have to apply, because I guess I can
If-
apply through that lawsuit. and
If
get
you went to
forgiven.
the Art Institute, you can 100% get them forgiven. I
Yeah.
know that for a fact because a bunch of my friends who went with me to the Art Institute of Dallas got theirs forgiven. But when the student loans got put on hold during COVID, you know, my Art Institute ones did not get put on hold. So I just ended up paying those off with the Beeple money that I made, you know, on the NFTs and
that's
stuff
smart.
like that, you know. So, but I didn't pay off the rest of my student loans, even though I could have. I went ahead and bought a pool. Because
mean, you
that's
might
a
be
smart
able to get-
financial decision.
because I don't know if you know Amani. She does
Yeah.
like all the After Effects stuff.
Yeah.
Yes, because I was talking to her. She got forgiven, and she was saying that everything that she had paid up to that point, they actually retracted. So she actually got a check for everything that she had paid in.
Oh,
So I mean, that might be something I'm looking into.
interesting. I should look
Yeah.
into that. Yeah. All right. Cool. All right. Speaking of NFTs, like I just mentioned, this is our first headline. Maker's Place is gone. Did you see this?
Yeah, yeah. I know a couple of people actually work there. Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. So, like, it's really interesting. Like, I saw the email the other day that Maker's Place was exiting the market and stuff like that, and I thought it was interesting. Like, I mean, it's not surprising considering that NFTs like really had its downfall and stuff like that. And I only know maybe a couple of people who are still in that NFT space, you know. But yeah, they were one of the bigger ones, which was really interesting. I really liked some of the artists that they brought on. I wonder if this is like a sign of times to come for different companies like Rarible and maybe not
OpenSea.
OpenSea. I don't think Open.
I
I
say
think
once OpenSea goes away, then it's over. 'Cause I feel
yeah,
like that's what everybody's back end was on, right?
yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't know if OpenSea. I haven't looked into it because I've been so out of the NFT space or whatever. I don't think it's not super
Yeah.
active and stuff.
I have no idea. I think Foundation might be gone too, right? I thought
Really
I saw something about them being gone or maybe close to being gone.
interesting. It wouldn't surprise me. It's like because there was such. I mean, you see it with AI right now as well, where it's like there's such an influx of people, you know, pushing their services or their like right now it's all the AI stuff. Like let's do AI this and AI that, and they're all just using Chat GPT, you know,
Yeah.
formulas and stuff like that versus you know you had the foundations and the makers places which were just using OpenSea's you know
Yeah.
back end for it. I don't know. I think I honestly think AI is gonna go the way of the NFTs, and you'll come
It's
out with like maybe one or two that actually you know come through or something.
Yeah, I mean, we keep seeing these bubbles happen. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
as far as I can remember, it started with the .com bubble
Yeah.
way back in the day. And then it felt like after that, it was the mobile apps. Everybody needed an app,
Yep.
and we had that
Yep.
gold rush. And then VR was a big thing. I was a part of that VR movement. Then that
Mm-hmm.
bubble collapsed, and then
The
NFTs.
3D
And
video. You remember 3D video?
I do,
Oh
yeah,
man, that was so big for like a couple years at NFT or at NAB. Everyone was pushing like 3D cameras and stuff like that. My favorite
yeah,
of those GoPro came up with a like an attachment that you could connect two GoPros together, and it
yep.
was some of the
I
best
remember that.
3D like on video that I had ever seen. But it was
Yeah.
crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember I was working. I think I was on my way out of working at Warner Brothers,
Mm-hmm.
and they were working on Clash of the Titans at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And Warner Brothers had invested a crap ton of money just in like 3D theaters, like
Mm-hmm.
actual movie theaters, and they shot the movie all in just regular video. And they're like, well, if we convert it to 3D, then we could charge double the ticket
Yep.
price and get double the money at the box office. And that's when I was like, yeah, I'm out. I'm not
Yeah.
going to sit here and rotoscope this entire movie so that you could offset it into 3D. And it, like the people there, I felt bad for because I mean they had to do what they had to do, but the
Yeah.
movie ended up terrible in 3D because it wasn't shot in 3D. So it's
Yeah.
like,
It's and that was a big thing that annoyed me with some of these movies. It's like it looks like 2D like on planes, you know, or
that's
something.
exactly what they had to
Yeah.
do. Yeah, it's a lot of After Effects and Nuke work.
Yeah.
You rotoscope it, and then you're trying to parallax the planes, and
Mm-hmm.
it just, yeah, it didn't feel natural at all.
The things that I hated about the whole 3D movie stuff is like, you know, as an artist going to see a movie, I like to look around. You know, I like to see the set design. I like to see the lighting. I like to see all that stuff. And typically, whenever you are seeing a 3D movie, they have what they want to be focused on as the main thing of focus, you know?
Right.
And so it's like you don't get a chance to see all of the, you know, things in the scene and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, I was never a fan of 3D movies just
Hmm.
because you're looking at just a rectangular screen, right? So it's like as soon as you look at the edge, it kind of killed the whole illusion as a
Yeah,
whole for me. Like,
yeah,
I felt like when they brought it into VR, like when they were doing 360 videos that were 3D, at least that was like a 360 point of view. So I felt like it made more sense for that, but that never really took off. But like seeing 3D at the theater just never really did
yeah,
anything for me.
yeah. Unless you do it gimmicky, like if it's purposely gimmicky, like I think I saw
Yeah.
Spy Kids 3D in the movie
Yeah,
theater,
we saw that
you
too.
know,
Yeah.
and it's like, all right.
But I mean, we used to watch all the Pixar movies in 3D
Oh yeah,
when my kids were young, and I mean, they look good, but again, as soon as you look at the edge, it kills the illusion. So you
yeah,
like almost have to be hyper focused at the center of the screen
yeah.
to kind of feel like you're immersed in it. But
One of the best 3D ones that I ever saw. And have you been to Disney World lately?
not lately, no.
So they've got in Epcot, they've got a little area where they're showing Pixar shorts. You know, so they'll show Piper. Remember Piper?
Yeah,
They show that one, and they show I think it's Go Get a Horse or Go Get Your Horse or something. It's that one is it's basically like, you know, there's a stage and they're playing an old Mickey Mouse cartoon or something. It's a new cartoon, but they make it look old, and
right.
like they break that fourth wall where it's like they're on the stage and stuff like that. And that's the only time that I've seen a 3D movie or whatever and actually like felt like it added more to it, because you know, you had the 2D planes or like the diorama style like Nick was talking about in the chat, where it's like, you know, it's flat, but that's the whole point of it, you know. And so when they
Right.
broke through the screen, and what was cool is like, so it was black and white, you know, and then when they broke through the screen, like the hole would be in color, you know, and it's like there was
Okay.
depth with the hole and stuff like that. It was fantastically done. They did a really good job on that, and that was one of the few times where I'm like, okay, this only looks good when you've got 3D glasses on. But also, then
Yeah.
again, you have to be dead center. You can't be off to the side, you know, like otherwise it just
Yeah.
doesn't work.
I mean, I think for theme parks and stuff, it makes sense. I remember we watched it was Kung Fu Panda. I can't remember if it was at Universal Studios,
Hmm.
maybe. I can't remember, but it's where the seats were elevated, so the seats were actually moving, so it felt like you were inside the, what's going on outside the screen. But again, it's
Yeah.
3D. You had the 4D stuff happening. Like if there was fire, you feel like the heat
Yeah.
coming around you, or like the rain would come down. So
Yeah.
it's like that kind of made sense, and that was a lot of fun. But yeah, like I see in the chat, he's talking about Avatar 3D. Like I wasn't impressed with Avatar. Like I always thought that was
Really?
kind of, yeah, like the original Avatar.
Yeah.
Like well, for one, I didn't like the movie at all.
Oh,
I'm not a
okay.
James Cameron fan at all. But yeah, I had my run-ins with James. But yeah, I
That's
mean, I
funny.
just never was a fan of Avatar 3D in theaters when everybody was hyping it up.
Hmm.
I felt like Pixar actually did a way better job at
Interesting,
3D.
because
Yeah,
like all I've ever heard was that Avatar was literally the best version of 3D to go see in theaters, you know.
it was
And I never
hype. It
did.
was all
Like
hype.
I
Yeah.
didn't see. Sorry, I got to keep on changing my lighting because the sun is coming out and I'm using my um that's all I had ever heard, was that Avatar was like the best to go see in 3D, you know.
Yeah,
And
that's what
so
everybody kept saying, and
but
yeah, I just felt.
I
I mean, I thought
never
Transformers was better in 3D, honestly.
I I didn't even see Avatar in the theater. I didn't see it until it came out on like DVD or whatever, you know.
Oh, really?
But I saw the second Avatar movie in theaters, and my favorite quote about that I constantly say about Avatar is, it's the most beautiful movie you will never think about again.
Yeah, I mean, visually, I gotta give it to them. I mean, they do look good, but I just
Hmm.
like the stories were kind of subpar, and then like I always thought the 3D was kind of bad. But yeah, I mean, it's just not my vibe at all. Like back then, I would say, like honestly, like the first two Transformer movies had
Hmm.
better 3D. Up was really good in 3D. I know I see somebody in chat say Caroline. Like,
Yeah.
I can't remember what's the studio that does Caroline, but
Uh,
um,
I crap. L- Uh, I,
Leica.
Leica.
That's right.
Jeez,
Yeah,
I
so
kept wanting to
Leica
say
did.
Ludo, but that's the one who does Bluey.
But no, like I mean, they did incredible 3D with the stop motion. Like I remember
Yeah.
Caroline and Paranorman was really good.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I think it was all the James Cameron hype. I thought there was way better
Yeah.
3D back then, but
Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, the so with that hype, what do you think of AI? It's gonna stick around?
I think it. I think there's going to be heavy hitters in
Mm-hmm.
there. Like I know Adobe is like 1,000% invested.
Yeah.
Like they were one of the original people invested before the genie came out of the bottle. So I think Adobe's heavily invested in
Yeah.
it. Of course, Microsoft. I mean, what they bought OpenAI, I think, or they're like one of the
Mm-hmm.
big investors in it. So I think it's going to be around. But I think a lot of these smaller AI companies are kind of going to be like a flash in the pan, just like how we saw with the whole metaverse and NFT and all that stuff, how you
Yeah.
had like a bunch of companies pop up and
Mm-hmm.
then maybe like two or three survive in the end. So
Are you using any AI stuff in your day to day? It's like that
just
I like to ask that question to different
yeah.
artists and stuff because it's like everyone's like AI this and oh I'm scared of AI and this one's taking our jobs and stuff like that. But it's like, okay, how much are you using it on a day to day basis?
Yeah, I mean, I've never been scared of it because I've seen, like, I'm heavy in technology, so like I've seen these things come and go, right? I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
dealt with the same thing when I introduced everybody to Unreal. There was like a real scare behind that, and
Mm-hmm.
it was going to take over. And it's kind of like you have to just wait for the dust to settle. But with AI, I feel like it's the same thing. Like a lot of people get overly excited about this stuff, and so I kind of just take a seat back and just kind of watch the landscape and see what's happening. And I didn't dive into any particular programs because like I said, like every other day I felt like there's a new AI program popping up,
Yeah.
and it's just too much to keep up with. So like when they added Bing to
Mm-hmm.
Windows 11, Bing AI, like I'll use that sometimes, especially when I'm coming up with outlines for like my YouTube videos and
Cool.
just coming up with like SEO compliant paragraphs and stuff to kind of push like the YouTube videos and get
Okay.
titles. Like I use it in that capacity, but for art, not none of the generative AI stuff,
Mm-hmm.
but like I've used like the Photoshop Gen AI stuff where you could do like set extensions and
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
things like that. So not really into like the mid journey, but like AI that like helps you along the way, like the rotoscope brush and stuff like that. I've used that stuff.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Same for me. Like I would use Midjourney a little bit. It's like I saw it almost as if like you were using like a stock photo site or something like that.
Right.
Because like every stock photo, not everything's going to be perfect. There's a little
Right.
bit of work that you have to do with every stock photo. So it's like, so you just have to do that with Midjourney with the hands. Just make sure
Yeah.
you're
I mean,
covering the hands. Everything gets mittens. you
the
know.
best case I've seen for that type of stuff, like Midjourney, was like doing matte painting, like background
Yeah.
stuff. Like
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
know a
Yeah.
lot of music producers that or a lot of music video directors that will do that. So it's like they'll use it for background elements and then have their talent up front and just key it out and then do it your traditional way. So it's like instead of kit bashing or photo bashing stuff in Photoshop to do your matte paintings, you're
Mm-hmm.
just using AI to do it instead, which it's taken away from matte painters. But at the same time, I feel like matte painters, if they jumped into it, it would probably just like expedite their workflow
Yeah.
because then they could get their base and then kind of just Photoshop on top of it.
Yeah, for sure. I can see that being super convenient, but I don't know a whole lot of map painters currently. You know.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, a lot
Yeah.
of them usually work in like set design, right? Like
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
lot of
Yeah. For sure.
VFX shops and stuff like that. Yeah.
For sure. There was something I was gonna else. Oh yeah, I've found myself. So I've been on the job hunt. Like ever since we got back from Europe. I've kind of
Yep.
been on looking for like a full time job for the past probably year and a half. Like just because for me the grind of like having to find work and having to chase down invoices and stuff like that, it's just it kind of lost its fun. You know what I'm saying?
That was
uh
never fun to me.
yeah. So it's
Yeah, I
like
hated chasing invoices.
chasing invoices is the worst, and it's like it's like, okay, well, I've got 1 month of money saved up left until I start driving for Uber.
Right.
And it's like I just didn't enjoy that. I liked making art and stuff like that. And I was freelancing over at ABC for about 4 or 5 months, and like I really found that as much as I didn't love like working from home, you know, being there, being around artists, you know, every day and actually producing really awesome work, you know, it's
Right.
like, okay, I'm fully invested in finding a full-time job, you know, especially somewhere as cool as that, you know. And so I've been going back to the AI talk. I've been heavily using ChatGPT. I created a ChatGPT bot that would basically, I would say, okay, you are a cover letter writer, and you write cover letters for people applying for jobs, and you need it to pass the ATS system that all the other AI is using in order to check your cover letter first and make sure that you're good enough for this job. So what I would do is I would say, here's my resume, you know, and here's a job posting. Now make me a cover letter, you know, and it would come out the most like robotic and like, you know, the most businessy synergy, blah, 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 you know, and I'm like, this is total garbage. But I have gotten 1 or 2 interviews, you know, or at least, you know, inquiries because of it. But some of the newer stuff that I've been doing is like, okay, make it sound a bit more friendly, you know, because I don't know. Me personally, it's like it's hard to get your personality across when you're applying for a job. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So like any little thing that I can do in order to like get my personality across, like for example, in my resume, it says that I'm Times 2006 Person of the Year, because I'm not sure if you know this, but in 2006, Times Person of the Year was everyone. So
Oh, really?
I put it on my resume as I was Times 2006 Person of the Year. So if someone is actually, if a human being is going through and actually reading the resume, they'll get a chuckle at that, which will put you at the top of their mind, you know. Right. But it's like, how do you relay, I'm a good employee, I'm a good person, I'm also really fun to work with, you know, and stuff like that. The other day, I was applying for this job, and what did I do? Hold on, I had posted this. Basically, the cover letter was you could copy and paste it in, and so I did my spiel, and then I pasted it, and found out it was only 230 characters. So instead of like going through and actually making like a serious thing, I was like, so I typed in, oh boy, only 230 characters. Better not waste them. I'm awesome. I'm an expert in Cinema 4D and After Effects. I wore a ton of hats over the year and can take any project across the finish line. My philosophy, plan ahead. And then like it cut me off instead I didn't say ahead all the way. Like, right. Anyway, I just found it was funny. If someone like were to come across that, be like, okay, that shows his personality. But it's like, how do you come across anyway?
Yeah, I mean, I've never had any luck like just cold applying for jobs in the past, especially like on LinkedIn and MoGraph, or what is it, MoGraph Net or
MoGraph.net, and then there's Motionographer, yeah.
Yeah, but like those job boards and stuff, like I've never had luck. Like most of my jobs always came from, you know, going to the events and meeting people in person and then getting recommendations and things like that. But I was going to say, I don't know if you follow Michael from the Adobe Substance team, but he has a website where he lists jobs that are in unconventional markets. So,
yeah,
like
I do.
I know the other day. Okay, yeah, so that'd be a good spot there, or even hit him up because he's actually talking to the companies.
Oh, really?
About who they're looking for and stuff like that. So it might be worth reaching out to him and saying like, hey, I noticed you just posted this job posting. Did you happen to talk to the person and maybe see if he can get you an introduction?
Interesting. Yeah. I've seen, you know, it's just like, it's the grind of having to just constantly be sending out resumes and trying to be one of those first people that send it before, you know, they've had an onslaught of resumes sent in or something. It's also about who you know.
That's the big thing.
Yeah.
That's why I said meeting people and then getting introductions is a huge part of it. Because like I said, I've been doing this for a long time, and I don't think I've ever had a callback from any of the emails for job postings or anything.
Yeah. Are you how are you getting a majority of your current work? You know what?
Yeah, a lot of my clients are ones that I've worked with for the past decade plus, pretty much.
Yeah.
So it's like I had a staple of good clients there, but as um as there's been like mergers, because I was doing a lot of stuff with like History Channel, Discovery,
Mm-hmm.
those networks and everything, but they got merged with Warner Brothers, and then that kind of killed a lot of that work, and then that became less, and the budget started to suck, and then
Yeah.
I started doing like movie trailer stuff for like Paramount and like Hasbro and
Yeah.
stuff like that, and it's just trying to keep afloat. So I mean, it's been steady. I'm not killing it like I used to be, like
Yeah.
just dollar wise. Like last year was probably my worst year
Same.
monetarily that I've ever had since I've been in a business, but it was enough to stay afloat. But when I was doing taxes, I just like, man, I was really, it
Yeah.
felt like I was busy, but the pay wasn't equivalent to how busy I thought I was. So it's just trying to figure that out for this year. Like, what can
Yeah.
I readjust and try to, find other ways to make revenue.
How's your December and January been? Because I feel like I feel like for a while December, January was always pretty slow, or January, February was pretty slow, and
Yeah.
then it start ramping up again in March. Well, after COVID, it then almost switched where like December, January, February was super busy, and then the summer seemed like, or October to December seemed kind of slow.
Yeah, because like I do a lot in TV, so it seemed like the
Mm-hmm.
TV schedules don't align like they used to, where you had like your big hits in like the fall and stuff like that. It
Yeah.
seemed like there's just stuff going all year round. But I did a lot of sizzle reel work in
Mm-hmm.
January, so I had a lot of sizzle reels. There's a couple of pilots that are going out that might get picked up, so I might do a couple of TV show pilots coming up here. I'm just waiting for the word back there. So it's been like I said, it's been steady, but it's just not like balls to the wall
Yeah.
busy.
Yeah. 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 I get that. I get that. Man. All right. I'd love to hear what everyone else thinks, industry. Feel free to shoot us an email, info@mograph.com. We'll talk about it next week. Another headline that I got, and Winbush, you'll have some info about this. The new After Effects beta updates. Super, super
Yeah.
cool stuff. I'm really excited about this. You know,
Did you try them at all?
I haven't tried it yet. I've only seen a few things, like some videos and stuff. I've watched your video, but the biggest one is the improved caching. I'm really excited about that. To where I just want to give a shout out to the Adobe team, because, or especially the After Effects team, because I feel like they've been killing it for the past couple of years. Like the integrations and stuff like that they have been adding into After Effects have been just incredible quality of life changes. And there was a huge, and like, me, I love to bash After Effects as much as I can, but I'm giving them props where props are due, because there was a really long time, I feel like, from like CS5 all the way to like maybe like 4 or 5 years ago, there was like this stagnation of like, oh, we're just, it was up until they got the multi-core rendering working. It was
Yeah,
like
the
there was just
MFR
a
stuff.
stagnation of like lack of stuff, and things weren't working correct. But I feel like all the new implementations that they're making, it's like they're really listening to their artists who are using this stuff on a day-to-day basis, and adding so many features that are just so great. Not so much relying on like third-party plugin developers in order to create stuff, but actually implementing it into the software. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I'm glad they're finally catching up. Like the cache thing was the big thing, especially for me, because like even though like my workflow is Cinema to Unreal to After Effects, I always
Mm-hmm.
felt like After Effects was always the bottleneck, just because like a lot of the stuff I was working on too is at 4K, 60
Yeah.
frames per second, 5994, and it would just slug when I'm doing compositing inside of After Effects. So
Mm-hmm.
that's why I was testing it out with the beta, and it's like I tested out some old projects and they actually cached really fast. So
Yeah.
I mean, that I forget what they ended up doing. I think a lot of it goes directly to your hard drive now.
Yeah.
Like it's still using the RAM, but it's splitting it up. And yeah, I mean, it's just being able to use that has been like a big time saver there. And then
Yeah.
that means your render times are faster if it's already caching it up. So
Yeah.
that, and then the 3D integration has been coming along. So
Yes. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
they,
There's a new FBX import, so you can
yeah,
now
that's what I was gonna
import
say. So yeah,
FBX, OBJ, GLTF for whatever GLB, whatever those files are. You can
yep.
now implement or import those, which is going to be like. I'm telling you, man, that's a killer feature right there, especially with such a heavy integration into the Substance pipeline. You know,
Yeah.
like I wish Substance was included in your Creative Cloud and not had to pay for separately. I feel like you'd get a whole lot more people using it in After Effects, but like the
I would
Substance
say that.
pipeline. Say what?
Say no. Say that's a good segue. If you
Yeah.
go to my YouTube channel, I just put out a video how you could get Substance Modeler and Painter for free for 6 months.
There you
So
go. There you go.
yeah,
Yeah. Go
I mean,
and
I
where is
just
that again,
got it.
Mr. Winbush?
So if you go to youtube.com/Jonathan Winbush, you can pull that up. But it's actually they did a collaboration with Epic Games, right?
Oh,
Because they
cool.
just released a Fab store.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
if
yeah.
you upload your own asset to the Fab store, which somebody could buy, then
Mm-hmm.
they'll give you Substance Modeler and Painter for 6 months. Or if you buy something from the store that's worth $25 or more, then again they'll give you the Painter and Modeler there. So like I did a live go through because there's a plugin that I wanted to buy
Mm-hmm.
on a Fab store, so I purchased it. It was like $40, and then yeah, Adobe just sent you the code right there, and you get it right there in your Creative Cloud.
That's amazing. Yeah, and I that's it's going to be huge for After Effects users,
Yeah.
because for the past 15 years or something, if you wanted to do 3D stuff, you either had to go to Element 3D, which was good, but like lack of development. I love Kramer, and I know he's constantly working on it, but I don't know where it's going to go,
Yeah.
and then, or you had to go to C4D, and I went to C4D because it felt more like After Effects to me. And if I could just skip C4D altogether and not have to pay the, $1,200 a year for all their extra stuff that they include, just to get the extra models in Cinema 4D,
Yeah.
uh, then yeah, I'd love to do that. It would be really rad to see them incorporate some cloner type stuff similar to what Unreal Engine is doing with some of their MoGraph tools,
Right.
but we'll see.
I
We'll
mean,
see.
I heard, I have to test it out. I can't remember where I heard this from, but there's supposed to be some tight integration with Blender files into After Effects with the new
Really?
3D update. So, I gotta test it out. I think they might be able to bring character rigs into
Oh,
After Effects from Blender. Don't quote me on that because I
uh-huh.
still need to test that out. Like, I'm still getting my sea legs inside of Blender, so
Yeah.
I don't 100% understand everything there yet, but that's just the word that I seen on some of the forums there.
But you can also, I believe you can also now bring in animated 3D files to After Effects,
Yeah,
correct?
so the
Yeah.
last beta, you were able to bring in the GLB, GLTF files as
Mm-hmm.
animated files, but with the update, that's when they added the animated FBX. So they show in
Man.
their demo like you bringing it straight from Mixamo and dropping it directly into After
Oh,
Effects.
hopefully that means that they're going to start implementing more Mixamo stuff, because they've kind of stagnated on Mixamo. Mixamo is just kind of like, it's great. I still use it, but it really hasn't been updated at all in years.
It, it's been like a decade. Like
Yeah.
they pulled back from it because Mixamo, when it was independent, did a lot more before Adobe bought it. Like you're able to put like quad characters in there. So like if you had like a horse or a dog,
Uh,
like it did the auto rigging for that, and then it actually had a timeline in there. So it's like if
mhm.
you wanted to make like an animated sequence with the mocap they had in there, you could set up like 3 or 4 animations and string it out, and they will all connect together, and
Oh,
then you
that's
would
cool.
export that. And they took that feature out, so I'm not
Yeah.
sure why they started stripping from it, but yeah, I would love to see them start building on Mixamo again because they have a cash cow there. Like I don't think they
Yeah.
realize how much of the industry like relies on Mixamo for a lot of character stuff.
Every single, it's funny. I was redoing my demo reel this past week, and I started throwing in more of my like, live action compositing and stuff like that. And I was amazed at how much character work I've done over the past few years. Even though I don't consider myself a character artist, but a lot of it has been through just using Mixamo and using character builder or whatever and mixing together animations and stuff like that. It's crazy how useful it is.
I mean, I've seen Mixamo. Like, I mean, at this point, I feel like everybody knows that entire library. Like, you could just spot it when you see it in the wild. And I've seen like AAA games literally using the Mixamo like stock animations.
Yeah.
Like, I remember my daughter and I were playing that Stray game, that one with the cat.
Yeah.
And there's one where you're inside like this nightclub thing. The robots are dancing, and it's all the stock Mixamo dance stuff. Because I'm pointing it out, I'm like, what the?
That's
I'm like,
funny.
they didn't try to switch it up at all. Like, you could tell it's all just Mixamo. And
It's like watching a TV show or something and seeing an old school Andrew Kramer tutorial and being like, there's Fly from Space.
Yep. Oh,
That's funny. Other things that they added into the new beta. This one's cool. Updated property panels. So I feel like a lot of people, especially coming over from C4D, who are using After Effects. Of course, if you're coming from C4D over to After Effects and just now learning that, it may be weird for you. But the property panels. So similar how like when you're animating in C4D, how you've got just a whole side that has like your position, scale, rotation, and all the other properties. In After Effects, you would have to do the drop down. Now this one is its own, unified properties panel for each of that, which I think is really cool. I think that's going to speed things up quite a bit.
No, that's smart, because I mean, I'd have the dual monitor set up. I have a vertical monitor, and I usually put all my attribute panels over on that monitor. So, I mean, that would help tremendously to just be able to go over there and be able to put in my attributes and stuff instead of scrolling it down inside the timeline.
Yeah. No more having to do your drop downs for your properties, which is really exciting. That's going to be fun.
Yeah.
Other small little things, HDR support, which is cool. And then you can change the transparency color and like the background color for your compositions and stuff, like just the working area. So super cool stuff. That's really, really exciting.
I know they said that nobody needs folders, but still waiting on a folders update.
Still, yeah, you know what?
After
It would be, you know what I want? The feature that I want is, I want to be able to do individual layers with adjustment layers, or like exclude layers from adjustment layers, because I hate it when I've got like a 3D comp or something, or a composition that's relying specifically on nulls and cameras, and then I have to duplicate the nulls and cameras because I want a adjustment layer to only affect like a certain one, so I have to pre-comp it all,
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, well now I've got nulls and cameras in this pre-comp, and then I've got nulls and cameras in this main comp and stuff like that, all because I just wanted one adjustment layer for, 3 things,
And I mean, that's stuff that they need to, because I mean, in the Unreal Engine with the MoGraph update, I mean, that's exactly how it works. So they have the folder structure inside the timeline, and whatever's in that folder is what gets affected by those adjustments. And I feel like After Effects, it is there. Like, I don't understand why they just don't implement it, but I mean, it might be one of those things that they're slowly working on, because I know that they added it with the mats. So before, it's like you can only have like one mat at a time. So like if you had your layer at the bottom and then you had your mat on top, you had to duplicate it. But they made it to where now you could just pick whip it to like that one mat. So I mean, maybe it's just something that they're slowly rewriting the engineering on, and they'll get to it eventually. But the
updated mats were just fantastic. They were so good. That was actually one of my requests, and I'm pretty sure they added that in because I specifically requested it. I talked to a couple of the guys over at Adobe After Effects team at camp one year. I was like, I want this. They're like, okay, cool.
I mean, that was one of those things I didn't know I needed until it happened. And I was just like, man, why didn't I think about this before? Because it's like, I was just so used to just always duplicating it and, it's just stacking it and stuff. But once they added that, it made it so much more. Because I like cleanness when I'm working. Yeah. And so like, it drives me nuts when I just have like a bunch of stuff repetitive for no reason.
Yep. Totally agree. Let's see. I got one more headline for us. Jags got a new podcast out. Y'all know Jags.
Oh,
Y'all
yeah.
love Jags. It's called The Creative Adventure. It's a podcast about balancing our playful nature as artists with the hard parts of making money as an adult. The goal is to help you better understand how you can find your best self through the lens of fantasy role-playing game mechanics. While real life does not have dragons, we can look at the creative problems we encounter as freelancers as our imaginary dragons we need to conquer. I love that. I absolutely love that. Super excited for Jags. We're going to try and get him onto the MoGraph podcast network. So, and get that going. Hopefully, you did a show with them, right? An episode?
Yeah, I was just on the last episode that he had up there.
That's awesome. So I'm excited about that.
He sent me the Spotify link, in which I didn't realize Spotify could do video, because I was watching.
Can it
on
really?
there. Yeah, he sent me because he went on Spotify before YouTube,
Uh-huh.
and I went to just listen to it to get him the retention on that, and it was just like the video popped up, and I was like, wait, this isn't set up my Spotify, and he's like, yeah, you could do video podcasting on Spotify now.
Interesting. I need to look
So
into
I guess
that.
it started with Joe Rogan. I guess he was like the test bid.
Yeah.
And I guess it was successful. So now you could upload your full video podcast to there.
Interesting. Did you know? I just found out that Spotify can do audiobooks. Like if you've got a Spotify premium account with like your family and stuff, the main user gets like 16 hours worth of audiobooks a month.
Yeah, I've actually been using it. I just listened to Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Oh yeah.
And then
What's
Automatic
that
Millionaire.
about?
It's about like financial literacy. So just trying to get more into figuring out, as we're getting older, like just retirement stuff.
Yeah.
So like just trying to change my change of the whole thought process behind money. Like they kind of break it down as to people that say they can't save for a living, and they'll say like, save $10 a day or whatever and throw that in the savings, and people will be like, well, I can't do that. So they'll break it down like, okay, you go for a coffee in the morning, how much is a coffee? $5. Then you might go for a bagel, that's $3, you're already at 8. Then you might go for like a juice, and that's another $8. So they break it down into like your habits that you do each day. And then it's like you actually see how much you're spending for the day, and it's like, okay, if you cut these 3 things out of your habits, then you could put that in the savings, and then if you multiply it times however many years, you'll have this much. So it's just like really thinking about.
I get that thought process, and I understand it. To me, that feels like a real boomer way of like thinking in a way, because it's like just cut out your avocado toast and stuff like that, and it's like, okay, I get that I'm spending some money on a coffee, which there are certain like things that places that I don't go. Like I don't love to go to Chick-fil-A because it's gotten like really expensive, to go out to eat there. But like I'll go to Little Caesars a lot because, they're relatively cheap. And surprisingly, McDonald's by my house is extremely cheap, So it's like I keep track of the ones that are cheap, and I try to avoid the places that are really expensive. But it's like, okay, I know a Monster is going to cost me $3, but these are things that I enjoy. And if I cut out everything that I like in my life, what kind of life is it? You know what I'm saying?
Sometimes it's about readjusting. So it's like, okay, that you like Monster and you drink it every day. So instead of buying it for $3 a day, maybe go to Costco and get like the full bulk pack,
sure.
and then you see how much you're saving there, and then take your savings and throw that into like a stock or something like that. So it's not saying like totally cut off things you enjoy, but kind of reevaluate and see what you're spending, and then see other ways that you could finagle that, and then take the extra savings and just reinvest it into yourself. So like the number one thing that I've pulled from like a lot of these books are pay yourself first before you do anything else. So it's like you get paid, make sure you pay yourself first, which you're putting it into, your IRA or whatever stocks you're invested in. And then after that, go about your daily life.
Well, what about bills? Do bills come before you pay yourself?
Absolutely not. So you pay yourself first.
All right.
I know.
My wife's going to be like, why is the credit card bill not paid? Winbush said to pay myself first.
Yeah, I'm just reciting a book. So that's the part that I'm trying to figure out too, because they actually say that in the book. They're like, "What about bill collectors?" And he's like, "No, you pay yourself first, and they'll get their money when they get their money." And I'm just like, "How does that work?" Like,
Yeah, I like having an 840 credit score, so I'll probably just keep paying my bill collectors.
yeah, yeah.
That's funny.
But
That's funny.
I mean, you gotta just pick and choose what advice you take, right? Because a lot of
Yeah,
these people too, they're millionaires because they sell these books.
yeah,
So, like at the end
yeah,
of the
yeah,
day, it's like, yeah, rich dad, poor dad, he's rich, but he probably got rich off of selling books on
yeah.
how to get
Or
rich. So
being
it's like,
some sort of like, you know, speaker at events and stuff like that. It's like, oh, we've got rich dad,
yeah.
poor dad come to speak. Oh, we also paid him $100,000 to do it. You know?
Yeah, so that's the thing too. I mean, you take it with a grain of salt. So I'm just trying to figure out
Yeah,
like what's the bit of nuggets that I can apply to my life. But yeah, I mean, it's like all this stuff is pyramid scheme stuff, but
yeah,
there's also some fluidity to some of it as
yeah,
well. So
yeah, yeah,
I started getting into stocks this year, just
yeah,
trying to invest in the long term, not doing like day trading or anything, but
yeah.
just because it's like if you look at a video, if you would have invested in that a
Mm-hmm.
while ago, then I mean
I
they
did.
blew up last year. So it's just like, man, I keep missing
Yeah.
those hits there.
I got real lucky. I bought the first stock I ever bought was AMD. I was like, "Oh, they make graphic or I wasn't even before graphics cards. It was before GPU rendering was a thing, right? I was
Right.
like, "Oh, they make chips and everyone likes those chips." And I bought it at like $13 a stock, and then it went up to almost like $100, and then sold it all, put a lot of that into just Vanguard Tech or something. It's a
Yeah, yeah.
tech index fund. That was the best advice people ever gave me was just throw everything into Vanguard Tech. I was like, okay.
Yeah, that's what I started
Yep.
doing too. Yeah. Yep.
So, but then I bought some Nvidia. I only had like 2 shares, but then they did the 10-for-1 split, and it's like, yeah, all right, I got lots of shares now,
Right.
So those are the
So
ones that I won't sell. I ended up having to sell some of my stock last year because I had no work, which is a
yeah.
shame. But yeah, I throw like, and it's mostly the stocks are for my kids and stuff for college. Hopefully they'll have enough money in there for college, but who knows? College is going to be so expensive. I don't know.
Yeah, I
So
mean, I would just say maybe save it for when they get old. Because, I mean, imagine how much that money's going to flip by the time they get into their 40s, 50s, and
yeah.
60s. So that's the way I'm looking at it for my kids now. Like, I wish I started earlier. But,
Hmm.
like, with my son, like I was saying, like, he still lives at home. But I make him pay, like car insurance and some
Yeah.
utilities and stuff. But what he doesn't realize, hopefully he doesn't hear me up
Yeah.
there, but I've been saving
Uh-huh.
everything that he's been paying me. So it's like he'll pay me per month, but I've
Yeah.
been just putting it away, and then I put it into an a stock brokerage that we created for him. So
That's
it's like he's
awesome.
actually invested into himself. And after maybe another year or two, we're just going to sit down and show him like, hey, this is the money that we've
Yeah.
been putting aside for you, and this is how it's been growing.
Surprise.
So it's like you actually have money. It's like you weren't just wasting it away.
Yeah.
Kind of just hopefully open his eyes to, okay, I need to invest in myself as well for my future because you just never know what's
Yeah.
gonna come.
Yeah, I make sure I show my kids, I kind of like let them know. It's like, hey, your stocks were good today. You made this much money, or hey, your stocks were down. Or it's like
Yeah.
I've got just a Robinhood account that I'll just throw $50 in, every paycheck or something, and then
Yep.
we've got what is a I don't even remember. It's some college account that we started specifically for my kid. Um, and then where it automatically takes $50 every paycheck or something and just goes in there, and we can see it grow. It's like, hey, you got $10,000 now. Hey, you've got enough for one semester at school right now. It's like,
Yep.
all
Yep.
right, but I told him, I said, this is yours. If you get a scholarship and I don't have to pay for your college, all of this is your cash, And so hopefully that motivates them at least a little bit, but we'll see.
No, I
So,
think that's a good lesson because I know if they're anything like me, like I'm all about show and prove. That's
yeah.
probably why it took me so long to get into it because my parents really weren't into it. But
Yeah.
like I need to see results before I guess it'd be like, oh, okay, so it actually does work. Because people telling you stuff is one thing, but actually seeing stuff actually happen in motion,
Mm-hmm.
that like it really gets the brain turning. It's like, okay, this can actually work out. So
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
yeah, I always look at it as like the overweight guy at the gym telling you what you need to do to get shredded, and it's kind of like,
Right.
well, you're not shredded.
Yeah.
It's like, why am I going to take advice from you? But then it's like the guy that's shredded coming up into you and telling you advice is like, okay, I can see that you did it,
Yeah.
so I'm more inclined to listen to what you have to say.
Yeah, and every little bit counts. Like to use that analogy,
Yeah,
you're not going to get shredded in one day, but if you're working out every day, doing the Winbush, showing himself on Instagram pulling weights, then yeah, you're going to get shredded.
right. Well,
So,
I do that because I'm doing a push-up challenge right
oh, are
now.
you? What's the push-up
Logan.
challenge?
There's some, I don't know what's going on in Canada, but they're doing like some physical fit push-up challenge thing. And
Uh-huh.
then Logan's like, who wants to do it with me? So it's like, all right, I'll do it. So it's like 100 push-ups a day for the month. So
Oh, that's funny.
yeah, I haven't been able to hit 100, but doing more like 50-ish.
I
But
I can I have been able to do 50 push-ups, like that's been my max for years. Like even out of
yeah,
shape, like that's one thing is that I could always do push-ups, Like I never had an issue with push-ups, you
yeah,
know.
not me. I get lightheaded. I don't know why. Maybe it's just that motion going up and down, but
Yeah.
it just, yeah,
Yeah.
after a while, I'm just like, okay, I'm good.
I got to get back into working out. Like for a couple of years, I was like really into it and dieting and stuff. I had a physical like a month ago, and I talked to my doctor, and I was like, because we had been traveling all around Europe. So
Yeah.
right after we got back, I had a physical, and I was like, I had lost some weight while we were in Europe, and so I had gained all that weight back since this last physical. And he's like, oh yeah, you've gained some weight. I was like, yes, I've gained some weight, and so I was like, hey, put me on this shot that I can take every week, to start losing some weight. I got on the semi-glutide, and I've lost like 16 pounds,
Oh, well.
and it's like, I don't want to be one of those people who's like, oh my gosh, it's like a miracle drug, but it's pretty insane. Like I
Like,
just
how are you feeling? Like, is there any side effects or anything?
the only side effects, I'll occasionally get nauseous if I have too much caffeine and no food, but like and I'm dizzy sometimes, but I don't know if that's like the fact that I just don't work out, So
Right.
it's like I'm not hungry, or at least if I'm hungry and I do eat less food makes me really full, which is pretty fantastic. It's like
I mean, that's what it's supposed to do, right?
that's exactly what it's supposed to do. Yeah.
Right.
And so I've been on it for about 2 months and lost 16 pounds, and it's been pretty good. I really like it,
Do you so I bought my wife a walking pad for Christmas
Yeah.
because she wanted to walk more. Like, do you have anything like that? Because I mean,
I
I feel like
don't
yeah,
so I've got a whole like home gym, that I bought during COVID and have yet to use. I bought like a whole like weight set and the whole machine and stuff like that you can do all the exercises, but I haven't used it. I've even got an exercise bike and a row machine, and I just don't use them. It's like these were the machines that I was when I was working out every day, like that's what I was using were these machines. And
right.
it's like it's just lazy. I'm just so lazy, you know?
So the thing I would say that helped me, because I don't know if you remember during that tour, that's probably when I was at my worst coming right out of COVID. Like, I was at 288 pounds, I think, at that point.
Mhm.
And the thing that got me last year was well, I started taking these appetite suppressant pills that my
Yeah.
doctor prescribed. So it's not the shot, but it still suppresses your appetite. But then I started walking 20,000 steps a day. Like, that was my New
Wow.
Year's resolution. So, like I said, work was kind of slow. Instead of just sitting around at the computer, I'm like, well, I'll just go outside and walk.
Yeah.
And it's like, I just slowly started building it up, because it's like, if you walk 5,000 steps and you start getting tired, and it's like, well, you're already 5,000 steps away from home. So you have to
Yeah.
walk the 5,000
Yeah.
to get back. And there's your
That's funny.
10,000 there. So I just slowly started building it up to
Yeah.
that, and to where I got to about 20,000 steps a day. And it
Wow.
was broken up throughout the day. It's not like all at once,
Yeah.
like I'll do some in the morning, some in the afternoon. But I noticed once I started walking, everything just started melting away. So it's
Really?
like I will lift weights ever since I was like a teenager, and it just felt like that wasn't just working anymore. Like I
Hmm.
was still gaining a ton of weight, but
Yeah.
once I started just going out there and
You needed that
walking, I just felt
aerobic
like
exercise instead of the anaerobic one. Yeah.
exactly,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So my body just took to it immediately, and yeah, it helped out. Like I'm down to 220 now. I think the last time I
Dang,
weighed myself.
dude. That's
So
awesome.
yeah.
That's where I was 2 months ago. I'm down to
Oh
like
really?
213, you know?
Oh
And you're
nice.
like way buff, dude. That's
Yeah,
good.
I
That's really
started
good.
lifting weights again, but yeah, I think last year I just focused on that cardio, just the walk, not even running, just
Yeah.
literally just walking and listening to audiobooks and stuff, and
Yeah.
yeah, it helped out a lot.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Because so that was one of my New Year's resolutions last year. There were two things that I wanted to do. One was read more, and
Yeah,
two was I wanted to learn a language because I went down to Mexico to get my teeth fixed, you
I
know?
remember that. Yeah,
Yeah. And I didn't understand anything, you know, and I was like, okay, I should at least learn the basics. So I started doing Duolingo, you know, and I made it a point to do one lesson every day, you know, and read at least a chapter of a book or something every day, you know. So by the end of the year, I actually hit a full year of Duolingo, and I'm still continuing it. I'm almost at 400 days, you know,
nice.
and I read 35 books last year, you know, which is
So, do you
just
think you can speak Spanish though, or is that the language you were taking,
yeah,
is
Spanish.
Spanish?
I can't
No,
barely.
oh, okay,
Like the thing is, I've found that like I can recognize some words. You know,
right,
it's like I'll recognize some words where before it was just like, oh, I don't even know what they're saying. You know,
right,
so it's like, and it's just simple things. So it's like if I say, you know, where is or I like or I want or something like that, you know, it's like just the simple things I can get. You know, it's the more complicated words where it's very specific things. I don't know anything, you know, but that's because I'm only doing one lesson a day, trying to keep that streak up. But even one
plus
lesson a day helps you learn just a little bit at a time, you know?
are you speaking with anybody in Spanish? Because I feel
No,
like that's the
they
thing. So yeah,
have
this
they have a Spanish they have like another thing that you can do, like a higher paid tier one, but I don't like it because they're using AI in order to speak back and forth with you, you know? And
right,
it's
yeah.
like I don't know. Could I just could I just create an AI bot that speaks back and forth with me in Spanish, you know? I don't know.
Plus, I mean, it's not going to get like the slang. You know, like when people learn English, like they learn it, but they
Mhm.
learn proper. Then when they come here to speak it, they sound weird because they're not
Yeah, yeah,
speaking
yeah.
like that slang dialect that we speak here.
Yeah,
Man, I feel like AI would be like too proper of Spanish, and
probably.
then they'll
Yeah.
go.
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
gotta speak to somebody, and they're like, Where's this guy coming from?" Like,
Yeah. I don't know. I would love to learn. I would love to learn a lot more. But again, it's about time. It's like I can put 5 to 10 minutes of my day towards Duolingo. You know, especially to keep
yeah,
that streak up. Me and EJ are almost at 200 days on a friend streak.
which EJ's learning Japanese,
Japanese,
right?
I believe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which he seems to be learning a fair amount. I think he's doing more than one lesson a day. You know,
You have to golf yourself. I
you
know
really do.
Clint, like Clint was learning Japanese, but he's like all in. Like I
Yeah.
went to lunch with him one day, and his GPS was completely in Japanese, and he's
Really.
just like he was forcing himself to learn Japanese, so he's putting himself in like an uncomfortable situation to where like everything, like his desktop computer is in Japanese and his car
Jeez.
directions. I'm just like, dang, that's dedication,
That
but
is
that's how you learn,
dedication.
right? Like you.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's a good idea. I should do that. I should do that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I know I had a friend from Michigan. He moved to South Korea, like, cause he was Korean and he was looking for like his real parents, cause he was adopted into the United
Oh,
States. But he lived there for maybe 6 months and he's fluent in Korean.
wow.
Like he never spoke it in his life, but he was like, it's one of those fight or flight type things that when you're just around it and you have to be able to speak it to communicate with people, is like you pick it up real quick.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Interesting. I don't know.
Yeah, so he never left. He's still
I
there.
should
Like
just go to
he's
Mexico
going to
more often.
university and
You
everything.
know? That's what I should do. Just go
I mean,
travel to
you're in
Mexico.
Texas. You
I
should have it.
know. That was another thing.
It's
It's
like,
like, okay, in Texas, like Spanish will be, useful in Texas, especially to all the
Yeah.
good taco places I go here,
I mean, it's the same thing here too. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm not too far from Tijuana. It's just
Right?
like an hour to the border.
Yeah.
It's like I should learn Spanish.
Yeah. So, yeah, come get on Duolingo. We can have a friend streak going. But I started reading too, and I was reading I read 35 books and I kept up that stuff. It's like creating these good habits of like either walking or like reading and stuff. This year alone, we're only halfway through February and I'm already at 11 books that I've read this year.
So you like physically reading or is it like audio?
I always have an audiobook going and I always have a physical book going,
Gotcha.
So at night, like especially after the whole TikTok debacle where it's like I realized I was spending 4-5 hours a day on TikTok alone. I'd get so far into TikTok that they would be feeding me videos with 0 likes or 0 views just because I'm where the branch starts,
Right.
If I like it, then they start feeding it out. But it's like I was spending so much time on TikTok and I was just brain rot, So I was like, I got to do something about it. So I make it a point at night. I may still surf TikTok a little bit, but I will read a physical book, I'll read a physical book and then while I'm working, I'll have an audiobook going, So right now I'm currently reading, I just started The Lord of the Rings. Because it's free on Audible. It's free on Audible right now. So the first one, and then I'm physically reading The Way of Kings. It's a Brandon Sanderson book. Matthew in the chat just said he just finished the Bobaverse 5 book. I actually just finished the first Bobaverse book, and that's fantastic.
It is Bobaverse.
Bobaverse. It's a sci-fi book. It's about this guy who current day. He has this tech company and he is celebrating with the rest of the people who work at the company because they just sold it to some big company. And so while he's in Vegas, they're all celebrating in Vegas. While he's in Vegas, he signs a contract with a company to cryogenically freeze his head, if he dies. And while in Vegas, he dies. And so they freeze his head and a company brings him back 150 years later by downloading all of his memories and his personality and stuff into a computer program, and then the goal is for basically the United States has become overrun by these right-wing Christian nationalists, and so they're at war with Brazil and the European Union and Asia and stuff, and so they're trying to launch a spaceship into space in order to find a place that they can repopulate. And so his goal, he's one of the contenders in order to his brain is one of the contenders, and so they've got to send him off into space to create new versions of himself. So he keeps copying himself, and through each copy it gets each personality gets a little bit weirder, and it's a really fun sci-fi book, and it was great, yeah. And I've heard
himself as a droid, a humanoid droid.
Yeah,
or is it
so
just
it's interesting. He initially is just he's just a consciousness, and he can see out of the cameras of the robots that he's controlling and stuff. But eventually he creates a VR sandbox where he is himself, and he can create things around him and he can control things it's almost the bridge of the Enterprise or something like that, and it's really funny. The first time he not to spoil anything, but spoilers, the first time he copies himself, he's like, this is the part that I was most worried about. And so he's like, okay, I'm gonna go dark and then I'm gonna wake up. And so he goes dark and then he wakes up and it's all dark and he goes, ah shit, I'm the copy. But it's really funny, and it's really good, and I don't know. I totally recommend it. It's the Bobaverse is a really good book. Also,
It sounds like it'd be a good cartoon.
I agree. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I also just finished Dungeon Crawler Carl. I'm not sure if you've read any of those books, but it's
Nah, I've
like
never heard of it.
it's apocalyptic. Every single building, every single person who was in a building when this happens gets basically crushed, and anyone who was outside of a building gets the choice of either going off and like living your own life on the land, or you can go down into this dungeon and compete in a D&D style like universal TV show, and so it's really fun, and the audiobook is great. It's a really fun one to listen to. And his side,
Are these on Spotify or?
yeah, both of them are on Spotify. I'm pretty
Okay,
sure you have
yeah,
to
'cause
pay
I've been
for them,
doing
but
that.
like I've got Dungeon Crawler Carl. I'll send you. I'll send it to you. It's a really good book. So
Yeah. Because I've been doing the audiobooks. Like I can't say I'm a big reader, but
Yeah.
audiobooks when I'm walking, like that's been my jam this year.
yeah, have you read Project Hail Mary?
No, I've just been doing the financial books this
Oh
year.
man,
Yeah.
you gotta get into sci-fi fantasy, man.
Yeah.
It's like I started out reading last year. I started reading fantasy books, and I got really big into it because I like let's be honest. Our world kind of sucks right now, and it's really nice to be able to just like decompress and live in another world or live another life or something like that, instead of like being stressed out about money books and like why
Yeah,
my
I
kids
mean-
got ADHD and stuff like that.
I think I kind of recluded back into playing video games. Like I just
Yeah.
played. Actually, I just finished Indiana Jones and the Great Circle.
Oh,
that
that's
one
fun.
that just came out.
That's
And
cool.
yeah, that was
what's that on?
great. It's on Xbox.
Okay, is that
Yeah, Xbox and PC, but
is it on game? What is it?
yeah, it's on Game Pass.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, that's why I played through it. But yeah, I literally binged the entire thing because that was probably one of the better stories that I've played through in a
Mhm.
long time. Like it felt like the old school Indiana Jones movies, but
Yeah.
yeah, you got to beat up Nazis and everything.
Nice.
And, yeah, it's a good time.
That's
like,
needed right
actually-
now.
yeah, that's what my wife was watching me playing this. She's like, "Those Nazis?" I'm like, "Yeah." It's like, but,
Oh,
yeah,
man.
it was a great story. Like I recommend it for anybody that plays games. But even has the as one of the co-characters, the I can't never remember his name. The guy that played Candyman back in the day.
I don't know.
He just died last year, but like he's one of the characters in the game, and yeah, it's like good acting all around.
That's
They
good.
even did the likeness of Harrison Ford, like he lent his likeness to it, so it's actually him
Oh,
inside
cool.
the game.
That's super cool. Harrison Ford's been a lot more active lately, especially with like Shrinking and then the new Marvel movie and stuff like that. It's like, I don't know. That's cool to see him being a bit more active in this stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you got to get it while you can. Maybe seeing
Right.
Bruce Willis kind of go on his route. Maybe
Yeah.
he's like, yeah, maybe I got to go in and get some of this in before, because you just never know.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, dude, I appreciate you being on the show. Thanks for hopping in.
Yeah,
We'll have to have
absolutely.
you back. Like, it's good to catch up with Winbush, always. So,
Yeah, hopefully we'll see each other at some of these events. I know
Are you
the
going
event
to-
stuff is kind of weird.
are you going to NAB?
Yeah, I think so. Like, I think I'm just going just
Yeah.
to go. I don't think I'm speaking anywhere
And
unless
so-
Adobe wants me to speak. So if
Yeah,
anybody's
I hit up
watching at
Adobe and I was like, hey, if you guys need any help, let me know. I would love to
Yeah,
help
yeah.
out. So, yeah, I don't think I don't know if Maxon is doing any live streaming this year or something, or if they do, it's going to be minimal. So, I don't know. Like, I will tell you, like, last year was the first NAB that I had been to in years that I didn't have to work or present or anything like that. And that was the most fun I've had in a long time at NAB.
That's what I always tell people. Like
Yeah.
last year, I did the presentations with Maxon, but the year before that was the first year I just went on my own
Yeah.
with like no responsibilities, and it felt great. Like it felt like a vacation.
It
Like,
did.
You didn't have to worry about present,
And you
or
get
you
to
didn't have to worry about.
you still get to
any
go to
stress or
all the
anything.
fun things and like all the things and see all your friends and stuff like that, and you don't have the stress of presenting.
Yeah,
It's
I don't
super
even
nice.
think I hit the show floor that year. I think I
Oh,
did
really?
everything else except for
That's funny.
the actual NADs.
I would wake up at like noon last year and then hit the show floor for like an hour or two just to say my hellos to everyone, and then I'd
Right.
leave, and just like
Yeah.
go do whatever. But it was great because, like you and EJ and Chris always called me, I was the fun ruiner because I'd always have to go to bed in Europe, because I always had to work,
No,
and
I
so
wish you came out with us, dude. There's a
I
lot of
know,
stuff
man.
going on. But
It's like, but last year it was great because like, and Chris and EJ were surprised because I stayed out. It's like I didn't have any responsibilities,
Yeah.
I stayed out with them until 4 a.m. playing the ponies, the electronic ponies and stuff, and it was a lot of fun. But yeah,
see, that's the parts that I got to miss out on. Well, because I guess because I am responsible, I kind of
yeah,
Max on punishes you for that. So they're like, we'll give you the early morning slot because
right,
we know Chris and EJ aren't going to be up at 9 in the morning. So
yeah,
it's
for
like,
sure.
all right, well, guess I got to go to
Funny.
bed early.
That's funny. But yeah, we are. I believe MoGraph is doing the. Speaking of NAB, is doing the. We're gonna do karaoke again this year, I believe, and then we are also. I know the Tom's Urban is happening. The School of Motion MoGraph party is happening again this year.
Awesome.
Details on that will probably come out here soon. So, but yeah. Thanks everyone for joining. Make sure to follow us on all the socials, especially YouTube and Twitch. We start our weekly MoGraph hangouts this week. So I'm going to start doing, and we may have some guest hangout people coming in the future weeks or something, but I'm going to start it off and we're going to see where we go. I wanted to do more of an informal thing. Where it's like, all right, let's futz around with Cinema 4D, After Effects, Unreal Engine, Houdini, all these things that like we want to try, or techniques that we want to play around with, just come and hang out, So we're going to play around with some stuff. We're just going to be live streaming, and that's going to be on YouTube and Twitch. We're going to start doing it Thursday nights. So starting this week, Thursday nights at 7:30 p.m. Central Time. So if you're over on the East Coast, it's 8:30. On the West Coast, it's 5:30. And we've got a ton of great guests coming on the show in the coming weeks. We've got the Mothers of MoGraph ladies. We've also got PJ from Laundry. He's coming on the show. And then I've been working on there's a gentleman by the name of Joe Granato. He was a former motion designer. I found this out when I hit him up. Former motion designer, but he is the creator of NESmaker, the program that I've been using in order to create NES games. And he's got a whole bunch of cool stuff coming out. I'm really excited to talk to him. I've been bugging him on Facebook. So that's super exciting. Also, if you haven't done it already, make sure to sign up for your very own mograph.com account. You saw, for those of you who have the newsletter, we sent out a newsletter yesterday, kind of like officially announcing the website and stuff, and we're going to be really pushing it this year. We've got over 550 motion designers already signed up, which is great. We're super excited to have everyone. But basically, it's a one-stop shop for everything motion designer needs. You can showcase your demo reel, projects you've worked on, post jobs, apply for jobs, sell your digital goods, find meetup groups, or start one on your own, and so much more planned. We've got a ton of stuff planned for the site, and it's like this has been the accumulation of 7 years of wanting to build this site. We wanted to build a site specifically that we wanted to use as artists, so hopefully you enjoy it too. We've also got 18 different meetup groups online right now, so go find a meetup group or start your own. And if you need help with events, hit us up. We'd love to help. So yeah, as I like to say, we're an artist first site where your work will always be yours and will never be fed to the AI machine. So stop feeding Zuckerberg's AI machine and start posting on mograph.com. So thanks everyone, and until next week, I am Matt.
I'm Winbush. Take care.
And we will see you later. Later, yo.
Dude, that's 100 push-ups.
Do your 100. Where's the ending one? Where's the closing?
pretty good, I guess.